It's Real Faith for Real Life, the podcast all about the intersection points of faith and life. Hey, everybody, Pastor Bill with you, and excited to have a special guest on the podcast this week, Julie Beezhold, our Connections Director. Hey, Julie.
Hi.
So if you're just tuning in, you're in the middle, actually you're at the end of a series about the mission and vision of our church here at Cascade Fellowship. We're going to begin today with a quick review. So the mission of Cascade Fellowship is radiating the love and truth of Jesus in every area of life. And the vision of how we accomplish that mission, it looks like this. Cascade Fellowship welcomes people into loving community, equips them with God's never-changing truth, and inspires them to live it out in an ever-changing world. We've been covering these statements for the past 5 videos, so I invite you to rewind if you've missed those and check out all the thought that's gone into those. But hey, all of these videos in this series are about this simple idea that we want to show our work. You remember in math class, the teacher would tell you, show your work. It's not okay just to show the end answer. Show us how you got that answer. These videos are all about showing your work. And here's what the work looked like. Here's how we arrived at these statements, by listening to God, listening to our community, our congregation, the previous vision team, and to our leadership. Listening was key to all of this. And today we're going to talk about, again, how we listened to our community. We also did that in the previous video in part 5, but we're going to continue that today as well. We drew this 5-mile radius around our church, and we said we're going to define this as our community, as the people we're trying to reach. The stats say this is about the distance people are willing to drive to attend a church, to call their church home. And so we defined this area, and we studied this area really closely. In video 5, the previous video, we said, after looking at all the demographics, we looked at age and income, race, all the things, and we came to this summary statement. We live in a mission field that is a predominantly monoethnic, wealthy, highly educated, growing, and aging population. That's just the facts about our community in a nutshell, and it's helpful to know that. We are called to reach a particular community, and that's really the heart behind the mission and vision process, discerning who we are accurately, determining who they are accurately, and then finding the intersection point. How are we called as this unique church in this time and place, with our unique gifts, to reach these people, this unique group of people in this time and place? Now, as we get into new material today, the one stat I want to highlight again is this big number, 60%. The reason we can call this a mission field is because 60% of people living within 5 miles do not have a church home. And this stat is up 9 percentage points from 10 years ago. So if you do the math, that means approximately 36,000 people near us need a church home. So all along the way, we've been guided by this question: how are we blessed to be a blessing to these people in particular? So not in a generic sense like every church that's existed across all times and all locations, but no, who we are, where we are, when we are, how has God equipped us and blessed us to reach these people in particular? So Julie, to answer that question, we have to know some things about the people who live near us. And that's what these last 2 episodes have been all about. In the previous one, we looked at the demographics, we looked at age and race and income and all that. In this episode, we're going to wrap it up by looking at their spiritual beliefs. So within a 5-mile radius, we have some data about what the people nearby believe regarding Jesus and the church and Christianity and religion in general. Okay. So you, like I said earlier, are going to be our color commentator.
Okay.
No pressure. But we've got a ton of stats and a ton of statistics and figures. They're all super important, but they are also a ton of stats and figures. So we'll look at them, and then we'll rely on you to make them interesting. Deal?
I'll do my best.
Okay. The first thing we're going to look at is people's religious beliefs. What do they believe, again, regarding God and Christianity and just faith and religion in general? So 44% agree with this statement. I believe in a literal heaven and hell. And of course, you can do the math then. That means 56%, more than half of people, do not believe in a literal heaven or hell. 32% say the forces of nature and the spirits within creation are gods for me. So we have almost a third of people who have some sort of a pantheistic or a nature-centered religion nearby us. 30% believe God is a higher state of consciousness that people may achieve. And 20%, everyone and everything is God. So, wow, pantheism, what would you label this? Eastern kind of mystical religion? It's actually very common in our neighborhoods in Cascade and Ada. Help us bring some color and some understanding to that.
What conclusion do I draw from this? They need clarity.
Yeah.
Where do we go with this? I think ultimately we need to get to know our neighbors personally and get them to a place where they trust our truth so that we can show them the truth.
Yeah. And I think a common theme you'll see throughout this entire episode is we tend to think, or at least I moved into West Michigan thinking, man, this is like Christian country. This is like the Bible Belt that I grew up in, Appalachia, but it's up north. It's a different version, but it's also very Bible-centric. And I don't know if that's true anymore.
Right. I think I moved here thinking the same thing. And I don't know, maybe it was that way, maybe not. But it's time to open our eyes and look around and face the reality that we need to know our neighbors. We need to speak to them. We need to minister to them.
Yeah. And just because people around us are behaving in a moral, friendly, Christian way does not mean they are Christians, and we shouldn't assume that. Let's look at another page of religious beliefs. These are a little less common, but still prevalent. 17% said, I'm undecided about whether a God exists. 15% say, I do not believe a God exists. The material universe is all there is. 11% believe there are many gods, and 7% say, I believe God created the world but takes no further part in it. So that is deism, atheism, polytheism, all of these things. I mean, if you add some of these up, you'll see that pretty much half or near half of people do not even have a monotheistic approach to religion in a 5-mile radius around us. It's pretty staggering. I think that's a good word you used earlier.
Sad. If this is all there is, how hopeless, how empty.
Yeah. Now, for those who might lean more toward Christianity, look at this stat. This is really interesting. 66% say belief in Jesus does not require participation in a church. So 2/3 of people say, hey, if you believe in Jesus, that's fine, but church is not directly related to that. You can believe in Jesus, you can be a Christian, you can follow Jesus, and not bring church into the equation at all. And that is up 14 percentage points between 2017 and 2021. That's a huge increase. People that just don't see the need for church anymore. Here's a clue why that may be true. 62% say that people in the church do not behave as Jesus would behave. And that's up 33 percentage points between 2017 and 2021. Wow.
That is what would chase people away, right?
And is apparently, right? So that stat would have been 29% of people said that in 2017. And now 62% are saying it in 2021, and maybe even more now.
Sure.
If we were to have a newer survey. So people are not naturally saying, oh, I'm a Christian, I should go to church. People are instead saying, church is full of hypocrites and people who claim the name of Christ but don't look anything like him. So I'm going to do my own spirituality. I don't need a church. That's kind of what we're up against today. So let's drill into the top reasons people don't go to church. We've mentioned one of them, and here it is again. 58% of people say religious people are too judgmental, and that's why they don't go to church. 56% say the church is too focused on money. 51%, just like you said earlier, are distrusting of organized religion of any form. And 51% are distrusting of religious leaders. So in today's day and age, there's a lot of mistrust. We don't trust our politicians. We don't trust our TV news anchors. We don't trust our doctors even.
Right.
We
trust the internet, though.
Yes, whatever Facebook tells me. Yeah. So religion is no different. There's a growing distrust of religion and religious leaders, and that's an obstacle we have to know is in front of us as we try to reach the community.
I heard a phrase this morning in Bible study: love without condoning would be opposed to religious people are too judgmental. So there is a way to love without agreeing with the behavior someone is displaying.
Yeah. That's a skill that Christians would do well to practice and learn. I think Jesus really emulated that perfectly, right? People who were not like him loved him and loved being around him. Is that true of Christians today? Ooh.
Right. We're drawn to him.
Yes. But people are not drawn to Christians. Interesting.
Right.
Okay, let's look at some more top reasons people don't go to church. 48% say church wasn't relevant to my life. 44% disillusioned with religion. 40% say the church's beliefs are too strict or inflexible. 37% found church boring or uninteresting. And 31% said it's not current or it's old-fashioned. So I key in on a couple of themes on this page. People don't go to church because they don't think church is relevant to their real life, or they find it just boring or kind of outdated. And I think that's an area where this church in particular excels. You come to our church, and I hope that your experience is, wow, this really does apply to my life. And this is not a Sunday-only thing, but I know now how to live Monday through Friday at work, and I know how to live Monday through Saturday in my marriage. I know how to be a good neighbor. I know how to be a good business leader. I know how to honor Christ in all these areas of life. I know how to deal with guilt and shame and regret and interpersonal conflict. Religion is super relevant to all areas of life, and it's a shame that not all churches draw that out so clearly, and it ends up with statistics like this.
I don't want to be a Sunday Christian.
Yeah.
It should be all areas of life and every day of the week. So hopefully, as people get to know us as Christians, they're drawn to want to know why and what supplies us with that source of life.
Yeah. Let's look at one more page of top reasons people don't go to church. And this is super understandable. These make sense. 29% don't go to church because they're unsure about what they believe. 28% say they don't believe in God. Okay, but this is sad. 27% don't go because of church conflicts. 26% don't go because they can't find the right church, and 26% say they've got no time for it. So on this page, a lot to unpack as well. They're the people that don't go to church because they don't believe in God, and that may be the one that we are like, okay, I understand. We want you to believe in God, but if you don't believe in God, it makes sense that you're not going to church. The sad one for me is that church conflict has driven, so many people away and has kept so many people away. And then, of course, the last one, no time. That's also sad that modern life has just become so busy that people don't find church valuable enough to schedule into their busy lives. And really, I hear that one more often than anything else when I talk to people about church involvement. I'm just kids' sporting events, and
it's always something.
It's always something, yeah.
You have to make time for what's important.
Absolutely.
And if it's right. If it's not important, then there won't be time for it.
We do that all the time in every area of life, right?
Absolutely.
If you value musical theater, you will make time to go see Wicked down at the DeVos Place. Or if you like music, you will make time to go see Chris Stapleton at the Van Andel Arena. We make time for the things we love, and we are willing to pay for the things we love, even to make sacrifices. And when you don't, it reveals something about your heart. So
I want to key in on those unsure about personal beliefs, because that does imply someone that might be seeking for something. If they're unsure, they don't know. And that was me for a long time. I had a faith growing up, but it wasn't real strong. And then I guess I didn't really care much. So it took some prodding and probing, and then eventually brought me to my knees.
Yeah. These are important people to reach too. Okay, one last page here for reasons people don't go to church. 24% say they didn't go because they didn't develop friendships in church, and 23% didn't feel welcome in church. And down at the bottom of the list, we have a very interesting stat. 13% don't go simply because they've never been invited, implying that, hey, if someone would have asked me, I would have gone.
Sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah, the stats say most people would actually take you up on it. If you say, hey, I want you to come sit with me, and this is a really cool place. I think you'll really enjoy it. I think you'll get something out of it. Let's go together. But 13% say, no one ever invited me. So it's scary to try to go to church alone, right? If no one invites you and you're stepping out into a big old room full of people.
Absolutely. What are they going to wear? Where do I sit? All of those questions. Where are the bathrooms? Silly things, but they're not when you're alone. And so you just invite them. Hey, I'll sit with you. You can sit with me. It's great. And what did you think? Just debrief. They aren't as off-put as we put upon ourselves. So it's just a nice experience. I met someone this week that brought a friend, and I asked him, what did you think? And he said, yeah, I could come back here. People were very friendly. And so his experience growing up nominal or raised a little bit Muslim, he was very interested.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And that ties into these other stats that were on the screen. People don't go to church because they don't feel welcome or don't develop friendships. And this church, I think, is one that really excels in those areas. You go, people will talk to you. People will come up and introduce themselves. And if you stick around, you join groups, you properly put yourself out there, you will develop friendships. Okay, that's a good transition into our next category, which is very similar but different. These are the top reasons people leave churches. So they have been active in church, but they decide to become unactive and to disaffiliate from church. Maybe not the faith, but church. They're going to stop going. For people that live within a 5-mile radius, why do they stop going to church? 76% say the church is too focused on money. 73% say the church hasn't supported them in a time of need. 71% say it's church conflict that drove them away. And then 70% say they didn't feel welcome. So there's that same thing again. It appears on both lists, the importance of feeling welcome. Absolutely. And it's a much higher percentage on this list because if you have gone to church, if you have been part of a church and you don't feel welcome, you are going to leave. It's just a matter of time. You're not going to stay no matter how good the sermons are or the kids' programs or anything else. If you don't feel welcome, you're leaving.
You can watch online.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Listen to the radio.
And that's probably one reason that stat is up 14 percentage points between 2017 and 2021. Making people feel welcome is more and more important as the years go on. We have a theory about why that's true, and it's what you said. You can get good content online anytime now. You can watch a preacher who's much better than me, Tune into whoever you like, your favorite style. Right. Queue up a YouTube list of your favorite songs. What you can't do is create community, meet new people, feel friendship. So feeling welcome is more important than ever and working hard to make sure people feel welcome. Let's look at some more numbers here. 68% said they left church because they just couldn't find the right one. They couldn't find the right faith community. They tried out a bunch and they just didn't find a good fit. 67% say it's because they moved. 66% religious people are too judgmental, they say. 65%, again, distrust religious leaders. 62% didn't develop friendships. What's interesting is the 67% moved. That's actually really common. People move from one area of the country to another, and they just nowadays
don't make it a priority to find a church.
That's one of the primary reasons people disaffiliate or become inactive is they just move and they try to find a good fit, but they can't, or they just don't really make the effort. So, yeah, interesting. Also, 62% said worship style and music was a reason they left church. 59% said they didn't have the opportunity to serve and use their gifts.
Come on down.
Yeah, right. We have plenty of opportunities here.
So many.
And 57% said, that, again, the church's beliefs are too strict or inflexible. And 55% said boring or uninteresting. So we're seeing some themes emerge, like I said we would. The boring, uninteresting thing is something I key in on. The relevance, it's one of our core values here. Relevance to everyday life. The Bible is not boring. It's a sin to make it boring, I think. It is relevant. It's a sin to make it sound irrelevant, in my humble opinion. Let's look at some other reasons people leave churches. 54% say the church is too progressive and has moved away from traditional values. 59% say it wasn't relevant to my life. There's that theme again. And that one is up 12 percentage points between 2017 and 2021. So that's becoming increasingly important as time goes on, that we make it clear how it is relevant. 51% are just disillusioned with religion, and 48% say the church is not current, it's too outdated, it's old-fashioned. So again, some themes emerging here. We're seeing them on multiple lists.
54% too progressive, 48% too old-fashioned. So I don't know.
It is interesting, isn't it?
Hard sometimes with stats.
Yeah. In my mind, I wonder if there's an intersection point here. There's traditional values. So some churches are stepping away from what many would say biblical Christianity is, losing the Bible's authority of teaching. Simultaneously, others are saying in the way you practice it, in just the language you use, maybe the songs you sing or the approach to ministry, it's just too subculture. It doesn't, like, what are you talking about? All these words. I don't understand the words you're using. So to bring those together in a way that's biblically faithful and modern, relevant, I think that's a powerful thing.
Sure.
And I think we have that here too. So what can we do to reach these folks? Well, the survey asked about ministry preferences. What are people looking for? Well, 83% want warm and friendly encounters. 75% want quality sermons. 68% are looking for holiday programs and activities. 66% want opportunities to develop personal relationships. And 66% are looking for adult social activities. What an interesting list, Julie.
Definitely.
This is like actionable stuff right here.
Right.
And super important for us to pay attention to. Let's just start at the top. So warm and friendly encounters is by far the number one thing people are looking for.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
So when they walk in the door, they want a handshake. They want a smile. They want a, hey, I'm glad you're here. What can we do to help you know where you are and what you're looking for? And stop back by on their way out and we'll give you a welcome box. That's exciting. We had a newcomer this past week, and Barb Johnson, who's fantastic at what she does at the Connection Desk, introduced him to somebody else who's here the last couple of years. I looked back later. It was honestly 40 minutes later, and they were still talking.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
So I think in today's world, man, isolation is so common. No matter if you're the richest person in the community, in the world, isolation is still a real thing. Increasingly, from the wealthiest person to the least wealthiest person, from the oldest person to the youngest person. Across all categories of people, we struggle with connectedness, human connection. So to be a place where that's available is a huge like resource to people. They will seek it out and they will love it. Second on the list was quality sermons. And like we said, content is abundant now. You can listen to a quality sermon by Andy Stanley, Louis Giglio, Tim Keller, even though he's passed on, Alistair Begg, you name it.
Right.
But still, it shows up on this list because I think people have gotten used to listening to their favorite pastor, and they don't want to go to church and just hear like somebody stumbling through a poorly thought through, poorly organized, poorly stated message. But the bar has kind of been raised, and so people want a quality sermon that makes sense, they can understand, they can apply, they can remember. And that's what I strive to do here. I put a lot of time into that. So hopefully that comes across. And I think it's beyond just sermons too. I would say quality teaching in Sunday school, or grow groups as we call it here, in the life groups, in the various kids ministries. So other things on this list make sense too. Like we said, just the opportunity to develop personal relationships and social activities, even programs during the holidays. These all form that common theme of connectedness.
We've seen families that started out sparse, and once the practices for the kids kicked in for the Christmas program, they were regular, and now we see them even more regular. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
Families that came because we saw them a few times at the block parties, and then now they're regular attenders at church. So these are all exciting opportunities that we took as forms of outreach and building relationships with them through these. And now it's working to get them into church, and they're learning and growing and building relationships with other Christians. So
Yeah. So things are going well with this list. If you consider okay, people want, above all else, warm and friendly encounters and quality sermons. Well, we wanted to know, do we provide that? So we surveyed people as part of the congregational survey. So it's a recap from a previous video, but we asked people, hey, if you've been attending for less than a year, answer this. If you've been here for more than a year, just pass. But if you joined us within a year, why did you join? And by far, the top two answers were, hey, we experienced this as a welcoming community, and we find that there's quality biblical preaching here. So it's really cool that who we are is pretty much what the community is looking for in a church.
now we just have to let the community know.
Right, yeah. And beyond that, if people aren't looking for a church, how do we still reach them? So what open doors are there to ministry? We asked the community that as well in this survey. Here's a few things that came back, some opportunities for us to connect with people who may not even see the need for church. So they said these would be some open doors to ministry, opportunities to develop personal relationships. There it is again. Adult social activities. There it is again. Holiday programs and activities, youth social activities, celebration of sacraments, and online or virtual experiences. So a lot of things are showing up on this list we've seen before, and the theme that's huge is just connectedness. People are looking across all ages for the ability to meet new people and develop connections and friendships, as well as, even in the celebration of sacraments, some sense of transcendence and some sense of connectedness to this deity. They sense this mystic other dimension that even if they're not Christian, they sense they want that. It's interesting to me, right? Some other open doors to ministries. 77% said they are concerned about social or political tensions and discord. 72% fear the future and the unknown. 65% need help losing weight, for whatever that's worth. 62% are concerned with stress and the lack of relaxation. 61% are concerned about racism. So this page tells us what's on people's minds and what's in their hearts, in their everyday life, just what they're dealing with. And that kind of opens some doors for some connection points here at the church, possibly. We can pick and choose from this list what connection points we want to create with people. Let's look at the next page of these connection points. 59% are concerned about making the right choice and finding direction in life. 56% are concerned with day-to-day financial matters. 53% are concerned about social media and the internet. 50% are concerned about mental health issues. 48% need help dealing with loneliness and making friends. And 47% are concerned about depression. So having seen all that is in people's minds nowadays, what do you think as our Connections Director? How many of these can we capitalize on to connect with people?
Right? Trying to focus in on a few opportunities, because you could get lost in trying to address all of them.
Yeah, I think about back on that first page with the people that feared the future and the unknown. And just knowing that helps me form my sermons a little better. And if I can offer something practical in my teaching that addresses people's fear of the unknown, then that is a good connection point with them. And even something as simple as the need to lose weight, like, hey, I get that.
Right.
And, we offer our facility to outside groups who do various activities here. And many people who would attend might be just looking for a place to learn Taekwondo.
Right. Absolutely.
And in the process, lose weight. And they walk into our facility like, this is beautiful. This is a neat church. Maybe I'll visit one Sunday.
Having been here for one event opens the door for them to come back to another.
Yeah. So, and maybe that takes a while. Maybe it's years down the road. For sure. And it's when they lose a loved one, or they experience a job loss, or they hit a fork in the road in life. They're looking for a church and they say, oh man, I bet Cascade Fellowship would be a good place to go. I know what it looks like. I know where the door is. I know that it seems like a modern place that's connected with real life. I know they care about the community. I'm going to go there.
Honestly, that's what happens with your neighbors too. You might invite them to church and they say no thanks, or you might just share stories of what's going on in your life, or they see that you don't swear, or they know how you spend your Sundays, and they don't react, but they know. And then in 5 years down the line, something happens to them, and then they come and they have questions because some tragedy happened in their life.
So we've got a lot of data to work with here. And Julie is the staff point person for connecting with the community and getting people connected with God and with others here. So Julie is working with a perspectives team. All of our staff department heads have gathered around themselves a group of lay people who are skilled and talented, experienced in these areas, just because, hey, a bunch of minds together is bigger than some of its parts. I think the brainstorming process, the creative, building on each other's ideas is really neat. So tell us a little bit about, you've had one meeting, right, so far.
Right.
Tell us what you think you're discerning for the next chapter of Connections here.
So a lot of things happened when we did this 5 years ago or so before, and we developed some concepts, some ideas out of those, one of which was moving the information center up close to the door, recognizing that there was a problem with what was the design of the hub. Beautiful space for a lot of purposes, but it was just too far back. And so we moved and created the connection desk, which is right by the door, so that we can greet guests as they come in, catch them, and literally we just watch their eyes. It's not like we know every single person that enters the door, but you can watch when someone enters and they look left and right quickly because they don't want to be caught. But that's kind of how we identify people that might be new. And then we can approach them a lot easier than being in the back of the room. So that was something that came out of that. Another thing that came out of a previous team was recognizing that our food pantry was a service, not an outreach. And so we talked about how can we take this item and move it 1 degree so that it accomplishes 2 purposes. The organic outreach approach is take what you're doing and just tweak it slightly so that you can do more with it. So we talked about a lot of different ideas, but what we ultimately came with was adding an element of prayer, and COVID assisted a little bit. We tried it indoors when the people would come inside, and it was okay, but it wasn't as successful as it's been with people lining up in their cars for food. We walk car to car and talk with them and ask, introduce ourselves and say, hey, I would like to pray with you. Do you have any needs? And of course they have needs. They're in a food pantry line. And a lot of times it goes well beyond that because they're down and out, their family is hurting, or any number of things. A lot of times they just want to express their gratitude for what we're doing. And that's beautiful too. But it takes that form of service, providing food, and adds in an element of spiritual care, which is exactly what Jesus did. He didn't just feed people. He addressed their spiritual need and their hunger or their physical need.
Yeah. So we have some pictures here to kind of celebrate all that's happening in our church as we wrap up this video series. And the first picture is what you're talking about, just this food pantry and how we've been able to combine meeting a physical need with offering help with spiritual needs as well. We have a picture here from our blood drive, and that's been a really powerful way to connect with the community as well and meet a real need.
There's actually a guy that comes to the blood drive that he started giving blood, and then he recruited 5 friends, and it's growing every time there's more and more, and they sit and kibitz. There's like 7 of them that just sit and have like a little small group meeting every time they give blood. It's so cute.
We have a picture here of the July 4th bike parade. We serve as the gathering point for the city there. So just, again, another exposure to the church that, hey, you can be on our property and not get struck by lightning. And it demystifies, gets people one step closer to the front door, a little step up the hill, if you will. The next picture here is of our Easter egg hunt. I love this story that because of a storm one year, right, we had to think on our feet and think outside the box. So we created little to-go kits with all of these eggs for people to do the hunt in their own communities. And it turned out to be a great outreach. So we began just getting volunteers like you see on the screen together to stuff these eggs. And then we'd send them home with people who want to host a hunt in their own neighborhood, equipping them to share the gospel as part of that experience. Then we have block parties during the summer. We got 3 scheduled this summer, right?
We do.
And again, we've met a lot of new people through these block parties, hundreds.
Yep.
And it takes time to build a relationship. So we're trying to do the best we can at getting them to take a next step, but sometimes that's a slow thing. This year, we're doing a sermon series in the summer about frequently asked questions, or now that's a good question about faith, God, the Bible. So we're going to ask people who attend this block party, hey, do you have a question about faith? Write it down, and we may cover it on Sunday. So come and hear your questions be answered. Just one more idea that we're trying to get people to take that next step. We're talking about outreach. What better outreach is sending people on the mission field? Here you see on the screen the Alcivar family, and they're headed out. I know we hate to lose them. It's such a cool family. But they're going to Belgium to minister to primarily Latino refugees there and people who need the hope of the gospel. As we end this video series, I want to take time not just to talk about outreach, but to celebrate everything else that our church is doing from this series. So let's talk about discipleship for a moment and the success of our grow groups, the pre-worship gathering classes that meet. Here's Professor Wilson Cunha from Calvin Theological Seminary. He's so gracious to lead some teaching times for us, and he's such a good teacher. Adults have been really engaged. Here's the family life group. So just tons of people with kids in the home and at that stage of life in general, meeting together to study topics that are relevant to them. We have the kids as well in all the different age groups studying. This is John Brink teaching, I think this class is about the catechism. We also try to bring the kids into worship as well. So I'm trying to be creative in the way that I teach and make concepts relevant to people of all ages. Here's our gyms, and our cadets growing groups, learning about Christ together. And here's the family life group out on a wonderful trip to the beach. So you get the hint that just these pictures show you we're really a multi-generational church, which is such a blessing. And toward the other end of that generational spectrum, here's a gathering we had for some of our retirees, some of our seniors, and what delightful people they are. And they all come together on Sunday mornings for this beautiful thing we call church, not just sitting in rows and listening to a sermon, but also doing life together and sharing life together, including not just young and old, male and female, white collar, blue collar, but also really experienced Christians and people who are just coming to faith for the first time or coming back to faith. And it's just so cool to see. Last year we had a handful of people profess faith in Christ for the first time as adults and be mentored and raised up in the faith. That was just so cool to see. And of course, that brings us to the present day and the celebration of this process and all the people who took part in this process. There you see a picture from one of our vision gatherings, and As we end this, hey, just a big thank you to all the people who filled out that survey or attended any of these gatherings, participated in focus groups or the big congregational meeting. It was your input that helped us get this clarity that we now have regarding the vision and mission of our church. So as we close today, I want to return us all the way back to where we started. I want to remind you of the purpose behind all of this. And to do that, we'll look at 2 Corinthians 9, where Paul says, "And God is able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things at all times, having all that you need, you'll abound in every good work." So we've been saying, hey, if God has blessed you, it is for a purpose. It is so that you can do good works. And just a few verses later, you see that theme again. You will be enriched in every way so that you can be generous on every occasion. And through us, your generosity will result in thanksgiving to God. So to use parallel language like I think is in the ESV, you will be enriched in every way to be generous in every way. We are truly blessed to be a blessing, and we are a blessed church. I think this has shown us in so many ways how blessed we are. So together, let's dedicate ourselves to being a blessing to these 60% of people in our community that we've been talking about today. All of these stats, all of these figures, all of these anecdotes have all been about this one number, these 36,000 people that need a church home, a church very much like the one that you and I are part of. And if that doesn't get you out of bed in the morning and give you purpose and excitement about the mission, I don't know what will. So, Julie, thanks for being part of this discussion today. And that's a wrap for the series. So I invite you to continue thinking about these big issues together and learn more at cascadefellowship.org/vision. All right, take care, everybody. Thank you so much.